Hello and welcome to episode 29 of Stucky's Travels. Today we're going to bring you part 2 of Tanzania.
So as we mentioned before, you're going to need your hepatitis A, B, typhoid, probably yellow fever, maybe malaria, depending on where you're going to be. So your passport needs a visa. The visa for Americans, well, for foreign travelers to Tanzania is 100 US dollars per person. So buy that ahead of time. And then, so part one, we took you on safari, mostly in the Ngorongoro crater and Serengeti, but we left that area. And the first thing we did a cultural tour of the town, Mutuwambu. And so this episode more shifts towards the culture and people of Tanzania as opposed to the animals. So this is a Sodom apple. We were so surprised by how many different things they use this for. It has a lot of medicinal purposes. It can be for toothache, stomach ache, a lot of various different ailments. They use this for the leaves, the roots, and so on.
So here you can see bananas growing on the tree and the flower on the right, which is just one flower per bundle of bananas.
Yeah, there's like over 30 different types of bananas that they grow there. So for different purposes, cooking, just eating, making beer through a fermentation process. So a lot of different uses. On the right, this plant is called Wandering Jew. If you look up this plant, you're gonna mostly see like a striped plant, but this is another variety. If you type in Wandering Jew, Tanzania. And they use this medicinally as well for eye drops, for eye infections.
And on the left, you see different people working, harvesting crops.
The homes in the area were created like this. They used wood, wooden sticks, and then would shove mud in between the sticks that would harden over time, and then a metal roof.
Yep, and then here on the right, you can see a different variety, the red bananas.
This was the restroom for the area that we were in. So using the corn or maize to create a privacy.
And just a closer look at the houses and how they're built. Lots and lots of mud.
The kids were just amazing in this village. So happy, so nice. They loved for you to take their picture on the digital camera and then show them their picture. So that's what they're doing here is they're posing for a picture.
And here's a bunch of maize.
Yeah, the kids were eating maize. The mom had been cooking it over a fire, and then they were eating it. This was, I think, used more for storage. So it doesn't have the mud shoved in between. So it's just the sticks with a thatch roof. This is ebony. Ebony is refers to several different species of trees where it has the really dark, dense wood in the interior and the lighter on the exterior. They're only allowed to use dead branches that they find, or if an elephant has pushed over the tree, when they go out to collect this for their artwork and carvings. But then they have to actually pay a fee for how much they take off of the land.
And here you can see different carvers carving into the ebony wood. And you can see they have the light, especially the guy in the middle, the light wood on the outside and the dark wood on the inside. Makes some really neat pieces of art.
Yep. And there's some more. This piece on the left, this picture doesn't really do it justice. It had a lot of different like hollow sections, and so just such intricate carving and no mistakes made, or it wouldn't have all stayed together. So pretty impressive. And we brought one of the giraffe masks back with us. Really reasonably priced for the workmanship that went into it. Really nice souvenir to have.
Just here's some more people, and you can see the little kids working in the field.
This was outside of a school at recess time. They wanted their picture taken, so they got together and posed. This was inside the school. We took some school supplies and sports equipment to the school. I think about 60 kids were in this one classroom. Really, really nice kids and attentive and excited to be there. We went to an art center where they were making art. This village creates two different types of art. One that uses the smooth paint like this guy's working on and in the next picture as well. But then the other type of art focuses on using like a knife and having textured paint, like really thick paint. No one was working on that type the day that we were there, though.
So here we have lots of different food that we were able to have for lunch. The food is very different in Africa. The taste is very different, but usually a lot of different flavors at least.
Yeah, so we have some cooked bananas, some ugali, chapati, some spinach, some stew of some sort. Eggplant was used in some of the dishes. Like Miles said, a lot of variety. I liked all of this except the spinach, actually.
So here's a closed market.
So this was after we had left Mutuwambu and sort of were heading back east. This is outside of Arusha, so a weekly market to get clothes.
And here you can see Mount Kilimanjaro. It's kind of faded just because of the haze and how far away it actually truly was from us.
Yeah, so we were looking out the bus window, and our guide said, "There's Kilimanjaro," and we were looking straight out the window, and we couldn't see it, and we realized it was because we weren't looking high enough. It's the tallest freestanding mountain in the entire world, and it's of the highest peaks in each of the continents. It's supposed to be the easiest one to climb, so a lot of people go and do this climb. There's 3 routes to get to the top. 2 are the ones that are most commonly used, and our camp for that night was actually at one of the base camps for one of the routes. What you'll notice about Tanzania is it's really big. If you look on a world map, you're like, oh, that's not so big, and but remember, it's 1.5 times the size of Texas, except the roads are way slower going. So if we were going 80 miles an hour on a road here, interstate, probably in Tanzania more like 30 or 40. So going from this area, which is just outside of Mount Kilimanjaro National Park area, to Dar es Salaam, we left at dark in the morning and arrived pretty much at dark at night. So, more than 12 hours in the truck. So if you are going to go to Africa, realize roads are slow, things are far apart. Probably Tanzania, just Tanzania and no other countries. You could move around and see a lot, but you probably don't want to spend as much time in a truck as we did. This is sisal. It's grown, and one of the main things that they make from sisal is actually rope. So if you have rope and it's made out of sisal, it might have come from Tanzania.
Here you see a bunch of different fruit. We were driving by, so the picture wasn't really crisp.
There were a lot of accidents along this route. So, in this picture, the road actually is pretty good compared to some of the roads that we were on, but it is very narrow, and the people travel faster than they probably should. So I think we saw 5 different accidents in that day.
And here's our tent. When we finally got to the ocean, you can see our tent is pretty much right on the ocean.
Yeah, beautiful view. It was fun to spend some time there before we left to go to the island of Zanzibar. So from the ferry, the large ferry that takes you all the way to Zanzibar is about 2 hours, and it costs $35 US. So a little bit more pricey compared to some of the things. You can see the more advanced skyline of Dar es Salaam. This is as we're approaching Stone Town, Zanzibar, a really old city.
Yep. You can see as we go through the pictures of town, a lot of historical things.
Yeah. Stone Town itself is actually a World Heritage Site area. Lots of different types of boats, from fishing boats from individuals to large shipping vessels, a lot of variation. These were the signs for World Heritage Sites, so we were able to see several of these around town because of Stone Town being. This was currently being used as a hotel with really beautiful views of the sunrise and sunset. This is just during the evening, and then at sunset from the Africa House. Just a sign that shows that the history dates back into the 1700s and actually further back than that. historic fort, more World Heritage Site areas. There was a night bazaar. I highly recommend it. A lot of vendors set up. On the left, Miles got seafood mix with calamari and tuna and all different sorts of vegetables. And then on the top right, that's called Zanzibar pizza. So it's more like roti that we talked about in Thailand, kind of like that. And then at the bottom, that's called a beef Samoa. It was too spicy for me to eat, but it was stuffed with beef on the inside.
So just some old churches.
Yeah, the Anglican church here is on the site of where the slave markets were a really long time ago. So really beautiful, ornate church with a lot of history. But right around that same area is where you start to get to see the history, the very sad, sad history of how this area was used for slave trade.
And here you can see just the size of the slave chambers. I'm not very tall, and so this shows you that there really wasn't a whole lot of room for them.
They would keep the slaves in these chambers for like 2 weeks between sales once they shipped them here. And this one, they would hold 55 slaves in. The other one we went to, they'd hold 75 slaves. So I can't imagine.
Yep.
So then we went to something a little bit not so deep. We went to a spice plantation. A lot of the money that comes into Zanzibar is because of their spice exports. So on the left, this is vanilla bean. I was shocked to see how large the plant was, and that in a year, the entire plant would likely only make 3 to 5 pods, and that's what the guide's showing us there.
Yep. And on the right, we see star fruit.
So this is coffee on the left. Not known as much for making coffee, maybe as some of the places in Central America, but they did grow coffee there, as well as bananas and papayas and other things.
On the right, you can see a monkey.
Yep, and jackfruit on the left. The monkeys, I thought, of course, I love seeing monkeys and thought they were really cute, but the workers did not feel that way about the monkeys. These monkeys are fairly destructive in the area. Taking fruits when they're about to harvest to sell and things like that. So they're not as keen to enjoying the monkeys as we were as tourists.
So here's turmeric.
And the person cutting open some raw turmeric. Just various plants, including chilies. And then on the far right, this is what they call local lipstick. The seeds inside, you can kind of dye your lips or put a dot on your forehead or whatever you want to do with this red dye.
Yep, and the workers made us stuff from the different leaves.
And I was surprised to know that the pepper plant, it can actually have white, red, or black pepper seeds on it, and they can harvest them at any of those points. The clove is on the left, very, very labor intensive. Most of the cloves in the world are harvested from Zanzibar, and you have to hand pick them and hand dry them.
Again, we got lots of different food.
Yep.
So very tasty.
Just a beautiful sunset. People playing soccer. Good meals. This is further north. The furthest point in Zanzibar is really, really nice oceany beaches with really nice hotels. And so we stayed up in the north part for a few days and did some scuba diving. And we left Dar es Salaam and headed to Iringa. In doing so, we had to travel through a national park, actually. And it doesn't look like a very big distance on that map, but it was another 12-hour drive, so a long day in the vehicle again. A lot of markets with fruit, produce, clothes, whatever. But again, trapped in the vehicle all day, so don't be deterred by seeing short distances on the map. It takes a long time to get around Tanzania.
And there's the flag.
Yep. Thanks for sitting in on a second episode of Tanzania. Yep. Take care.
Bye.